All right, guys, so the anti-Trump protests have started on the eve of Trump's inauguration, which is not exactly surprising. I mean, it's Washington, D.C., it's a very leftist city, but we do have to address today the topic of the low-energy left. And yes, that's what we're going to start calling them, the low-energy left, because let me tell you, the first time I was president, they had lots of energy. Now they have no energy, and look at those crowd sizes. They have no crowds because, guys, we have to question for a very long time now. Have you noticed how there were virtually no major organized protests to Donald Trump winning the election? You would have thought, right? On November 6, 2024, much like the first time around, a bunch of people across this country would be angry. They would start taking to the streets. And after all, I was told that Trump was going to be way worse this time, right? This time he's going to be a dictator. This time he's going to overthrow American democracy and institute Project 2025, which notice how they stopped talking about that, right? What happened in Project 25? I thought that was supposed to be Trump's actual agenda. So considering he's about to take office, shouldn't you be sounding the alarm about that as we speak? Oh, it was a lie the whole time. Okay, nothing is exactly surprising there. But, it's been an interesting open question. Like, why were there no protests? I don't know. Did the Soros money dry up? Or in a genuine sense, are leftists across America really just that demoralized? But guys, you got to give them a little bit of credit today because they finally did a protest, okay? This is really like the first documented, organized protest we have against Trump since he won the election. Finally, on the eve of the inauguration, the leftists are doing something, except there is one catastrophic problem with it, which is when you compare the energy, when you compare the crowd size to this time, this very weekend back in 2017, you will reach the conclusion, as we'll show you here today, guys, that the left has completely run out of energy. There is no one there. They've ran out of gasoline as a movement. So first, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, okay? You subscribing is the best way to ensure we can keep doing these videos. According to the stats, 70% of you guys watching are not subscribed, so make sure you hit that red button. With that said, okay, we're going to show you this comparative analysis in a second, but first, here are the sights and sounds of the protests currently going on right now this afternoon in Washington, D.C. Take a look.
Attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When trans people are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Palestinians are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Palestinians are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
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 All right.
I love the ending there. All right, give your guys a round of applause. Yay, we did it. We screamed in the streets. Surely this will stop the inauguration from happening. I don't know. But, look, on one hand, at least the left finally did an organized protest because this, again, is like the first documented organized protest that you've even seen since the election. But you may watch that video and say, Vince, why do you say they're low energy? I mean, there's like people there, aren't you being a little facetious? Well, not exactly, because take a look at the zoomed out video of the crowd that was protesting today in DC, and you might start to realize how pathetic it was. Check it out. So you're seeing it here on your screen. I mean, what? Maybe 1,000 people? Couple thousand people even, not a horrible showing. But the reason I say it is so bad comparatively speaking is because we have to put it next to the protest that took place the first time around when Trump won. Okay, so this was what Washington, D.C. looked like in 2017 on the weekend of January 20th. In fact, the Women's March of D.C., as it was called back then, is one of the largest organized protests on a single day in American history. Okay, so you're seeing the photographs right here. This is what was going on, right? They were taking over basically the entire capital area of DC full of people. And now what is it? A trickle? A couple thousand people? Absolutely pathetic. And guys, also keep this in mind, okay? Back then, it was not just a mass protest happening in DC. You saw a women's march, a mass protest in virtually every major city in America. I mean, this was what was going on, for instance, in New York City. Now what's going on in New York? No protests, okay? There was a minor protest in response to Trump's sentencing, and I kid you not, there were about 10 people there, and one of them was a Trump impersonator. So this is what we're dealing with as compared to back then versus now.
Well, I'm here with the haters and losers. They could be putting out the fire in California very strongly. A lot of people are suffering under Gavin Newsom, but instead they're here. They're harassing their favorite president. Hello, law and order. We support the law and order very strongly. Hello. You want a position in the cabinet? No? Okay, that's right. We're going to put it on. That's right. We're going to put it out. I'm going to give you position in cabinet. How are you, sir? We're going to give you Secretary of State right here. Hello. The fake news media. You've got the protest. Look at these protesters. What's it? Okay. Look at these protesters. You could be putting out the fires. There's so many fires. You should be putting it out very strongly.
Shout out to Jason Scoop, by the way. That is the Trump impersonator you see in that video, and he does a really good job. So, make sure you go and follow him. But yeah, okay, so you may be asking then, what about DC, right? And again, today is like the first time there was actually a protest in DC, because thus far there has been almost nothing. In fact, let's take a trip down memory lane to remember the protests that were happening in DC on the weekend of January 6th, where some Democrats, some Demsurrectionists, as we will call them, were trying to protest against the electoral certification of Trump. And I again bring up this concept of the low energy left, because where's all the energy? Take a look. Look at this obvious threat to our democracy. Look at that. This is worse than 9/11. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is the biggest attack on democracy since the Civil War. And if you disagree, you must just be a conspiracy theorist. Now, in total fairness, the turnout there is pretty weak. Okay, there's like what? 2, maybe 3 dozen people there. Yeah, the energy on the liberal side is really not what it used to be. Yeah, you're exactly right there, Vince, from 11 days ago. The energy's not what it used to be. And guys, I think what this is symbolic of is we talk a lot about the political mandate that Trump has, right? The governing mandate. But I would argue something is very unique about the 2024 election that did not exist in 2016 or even prior elections like the elections of Bush and stuff like that, which is the conservative side also won what I would call the cultural mandate. And I don't know if that's ever a term that's really been invented or used by political scientists, but there's absolutely something real, something tangible has changed about this country, because as you can see, not only does the left not really have the energy to protest anymore, but you think about where the Overton window of ideas by the average American has shifted. I mean, think to yourself about the number of people in your personal life. And I know we all know several like Bill Maher, Anna Kasparian type of stories where they totally maybe went over to the other side, maybe even voting for Trump, or they sat out the election or something. People who were hardcore Democrats back in 2020, back in 2016, probably voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012. And all of a sudden, people you never thought would change, suddenly they're like, I can't support this anymore, right? You think about how much cancel culture has decreased. You think about how, in a cultural sense, it's almost like back for a very long time, I would argue since the election of Obama and even before that, it was the cool thing, the young, hip, and cool thing, the trendy thing to be a Democrat. And it almost feels like in the past several years, that has switched. That old party dichotomy where the Republicans are like the lame old people who are out of touch and the Democrats are the fresh, cool, young party, that's almost shifted in a sense. And it truly is a fascinating spectacle to watch. But guys, I also think it's something very important that the conservative side should learn from, right? Now that we basically own the culture, now that you really don't have to live in fear, I would argue for the most part, of being a Trump supporter anymore, which is a crazy development. And part of me will always miss really being the opposition instead of the majority, because it was a lot of fun as hard as it was. But nonetheless, okay, I think one important thing I'll close this video with is that we need to make sure we do not make the same mistakes that the left did in losing their cultural mandate, right? Because back in 2008, like Obama's campaign was revolutionary, right? It was incredibly run and it had this kind of image of like unity and tolerance and bringing people together. And then what happened over time? The Democrats lost their way. because they became arrogant. They started to think they were this like elite social group and they didn't need to open up new minds or make sense to normal people or whatever. And eventually what happens? They're now the minority in the culture. And now for the conservatives, we are going to have to make sure we do not become like those people, right? We have to remain relevant. We have to remain cool. We have to continue to win over new hearts and minds, continue to accept new people into our movement, even if we want to say, oh, well, you didn't support Trump in 2024. I mean, when are you going to get it? Okay, but still, right? You're going to need voters for 26, for 28. You have to make sure you do not become like them because believe it or not, it's a lot harder, as a matter of fact, to hold on and keep power sometimes than it is to just gain the power. So that's just something I want to point out. But, you know, we'll get into that as, you know, the presidency actually starts. For now, I want to say the low energy left, you guys have lost the aura. You guys have lost the majority. Bye-bye. You know, have fun with your 12 people out there in the streets. Okay, with that said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.